The 99th edition of the Hastings Chess Congress finished just a few days ago. The first tournament in Hastings took place in 1895, and over the years it's featured some of the greatest names in chess history. When I was first learning chess, I was inspired by stories from the Hastings tournaments. In fact, the first chess book that I ever owned, The Game of Chess by Harry Golombek, as you can see the yellowing pages there, actually featured a game from the 1953-1954 Hastings tournament between Bronstein and Alexander. It's an absolutely epic game. It's one of the first complete games that I ever played through, and Golombek does a really good job of describing the kind of excitement that you get in tournament play. So I wanted to encourage a new generation of players to be similarly inspired. So I offered a cash prize for the best game played by an under 18 at the Congress. I went down to Hastings on the final day of the Masters tournament to judge the competition, and it was a tough choice. There you can see Stuart Conquest, the tournament director, and myself deliberating over the decision. In the end, we decided to split the prize. So there are two winners, and what I like about both these games is that both players showed great attacking spirit. They'd rather go forward than back. They're not afraid to give up material in going for the king. It's very important. Don't expect perfection from these games, but do admire the spirit in which these games were played. First up, we have Ashwin Angelan playing black here. He's my first prize winner, and he's just 11 years old. He's from Wanstead, which is in London, and he's playing Siddhartha Shankar Srivastava in round 1. Okay, so e4, and Ashwin played e6, the French defense. So here we go, and an advanced variation, and we've had this on the channel a few times because this actually forms part of my anti-Sicilians repertoire. I know that sounds odd, but there you go. I've always felt very comfortable playing the black side of the advanced French. So very often black is trying to get counterplay on the queen side down the c-file, and that's why these pieces are brought out at a very early stage. And you could say this is the main line. So because the pawn is on e5, then it's necessary to bring this knight out either via h6 or via e7. So knight a3, the knight is going to come around here to c2 to support the pawn on d4. Black exchanges and plays knight f5 and then knight c2 to support the d4 pawn. Now, this is a very, very common position, and black can play this in all kinds of ways. So a5 is a decent move here. You can play knight b4 as well, just to clear some pieces from the board. Rook c8, all kinds of stuff. But bishop e7 is very sensible, just pragmatic development. And castles, good. So the king is safe. I like that. Both kings are safe. a3 could be that white wants to expand on the queen side with b4 and stops that simplifying move knight b4. Now, black can play rook c8 here and go for counterplay on the queen side, or maybe a5 is possible as well. But f6, so this is where things kick off, and I think f6 is an indication that Ashwin likes to play on the king side. And his opponent really goes for it now. Plays g4. Wow. Obviously very risky because white's king becomes a little bit more exposed. But I guess the idea is that after knight h6, then it's possible to take here and win material like this. In fact, I would be very comfortable playing this as black because you can sack the exchange and get decent compensation. So it was possible to play knight h6, but Ashwin decided he's just going to go for it straight away, taking on e5. And if that's recaptured, then the knight does have a square on h4, as well as knight h6. But white accepted the challenge and took the piece, and then e4. So this is a bold sacrifice, and bishop d6. So you can see that the knight is threatened. Also, the queen now has an avenue to join the attack on the king side, and suddenly with that pawn on e4 controlling these squares, then white has to be careful because it's difficult to shift pieces over to the king side. Bishop f4 brings the bishop into play, guards the knight. Rook takes f5. So black has, let me see, 2 pawns for the piece, and there's pressure here. So pieces exchanged, another exchange. So black still a piece down, but now the major pieces are going to be in play. All the pieces are going to be in play very soon. So queen d2 and rook f8. I like that. Before you go any further, bring as many pieces into play as possible. Knight e1. And now here is where Ashwin starts the final attack. And I really like this next move. So e5. So what's the point of this? White took. Now, instead of recapturing, here's the clever bit. The queen swooped across to g6. I suspect that was underestimated. Because if knight g2, then rook g5. And the knight drops. So king h1 was played. Watch out for this. This bishop stationed on c6. The so-called bad French bishop. Well, how often does the bad French bishop come into play? e3. There we are. Things start to open up. So, of course, if queen takes, then there's going to be a wonderful discovered check here. So, queen d3 takes, and you can see that white is collapsing now because d4 is coming anyway. And this was taken. Okay, of course, if rook takes, then everything is opening up here. Basically, you can take here, and this is just too much for white. All these threats here, and even on this diagonal as well. So white played bishop takes check. The king went in the corner. Okay, the queen was taken, and now rook d8, pin and win. Everything is coming together for black. It's lost now. So bishop takes, rook takes, and now it was just some nice mopping up. And an important move from Ashwin, h6. He didn't forget about the back rank mate, and the game finished like this. And here, white finally resigned. Of course, if king h3, then it's mate next move with queen g4. So I really like that. Here, some players might have fallen back, but I think this was inspired to give a piece and to play for the initiative in this position. So well done to Ashwin and Julan. Now, here comes game number 2. Here's my second prize winner, and playing black in this game is Reyansh Saxena. He's 12 years old and also comes from London. So well done to him. Let's take a look at this game. So he's playing black against Aram Swiatkowski, played in the final round of the Hastings Masters. e4, e6, another French defense. Now, here white plays a slightly unusual move, b3, instead of the usual d4. I don't quite believe it, but it is tricky. So white allows the pawn on e4 to be taken, but you can see has developed the queenside very quickly. And the idea is, there we go, the queen comes out so that white is ready to castle queenside. And of course, when we have kings on opposite side of the boards, then that can be tricky. That can be very sharp. I quite like the way that Reyansh handles this. Really unpretentious. He doesn't try to hang on onto that pawn desperately, but instead just gets castled, develops really soundly. And white goes queenside, but it looks slightly funny, and we're about to find out why. Because actually it's black that gets a very quick attack. So Reyansh understands how to attack. He wants to bring that rook into the game very quickly because he's got something to bite on here. He wants to get in a4. So white plays a4 to block out, but just to block the a pawn. Okay, so not deterred, c6 with the idea b5. So white thinks, okay, I want some attack as well, so throws the g-pawn up the board. But crucially, there's actually nothing to bite on. That pawn is on h7, not h6. So it's not so dangerous. I guess it's a way of bringing the bishop out as well, potentially. But Reyansh continues very logically. That's why he played c6. He wants to advance and break open white's queenside. And that's why I think actually white's opening is a little bit dubious. Pawn takes pawn. Now I guess you could recapture on b5, but instead Reyansh just goes for it. I like this. So route one, you just want to open a file for the rook really quickly and try and get through to white's king. Excellent. So white takes this. But I mean, by this stage, to be honest, I wouldn't find this position at all easy to play with white. d4, so a slight change of tack. Obviously, the knight here was threatened, so that blocks the fourth rank. Now a very cool move, just a recapture on b5. And yeah, I mean, the lines are opening. Now this bishop can potentially come into the game. Knight c5 from white. And it's an interesting move. Reyansh decides, I mean, you could move the rook back along the a file somewhere, even go forward, but plays rook b4. And this is a really provocative move. He's clearly not afraid to give up the exchange here. You know, this is in the air basically. Rook takes bishop. And that's roughly what happened. Well, actually, white decided to move the bishop, but Reyansh decided, fine, I'm just going to give up that rook. And there's a nice little finesse here. After this, you could recapture straight away, but maybe after queen b5 it's not so clear, but instead little finesse, a check. And when the king comes up, the queen bounces back, and only then you take the bishop. So, all right, what's the balance here? Well, first of all, that knight's attacked, so knight b3. So basically, black has a bishop and a pawn against a rook. So a slight material advantage for white. However, black is going to get fantastic compensation because the king is quite exposed. This queen looks incredibly dangerous coming to a3. And now it's just a question of bringing some pieces over to the attack. The queen needs some support. So excellent move. Knight e4. Let's throw the knight forward, and straight away there's a threat to play knight c3, winning back material. d3, bishop g5 check. There we go. That was the other thing, that the knight opened up the diagonal for the bishop. And Reyansh decides, fine, I'm going to claim back the exchange. Obviously, because of the knight fork, then white has to take. And now black is even a pawn up. Now, of course, you don't want to go into an endgame, because these pieces are so bad on the king side. It's best to maintain the attack. And now black's pieces come into the game. Bishop b7 with gain of tempo, hitting the rook. And again, keep it simple, just exchange and knight a6. So this knight is about to enter the attack. And bishop f6 check. Of course, if queen takes, then the rook can be taken here. And the queen just comes back. So, of course, there's a pin here. Can't be taken. Material is now level, but black's pieces are so strong and white's queenside so weak that it's just a matter of time before black breaks through. I mean, look at those beautiful pieces. Every single one of black's pieces now in the attack. I like that. And black crashes through. So obviously if rook takes, then queen takes knight. And pin and win. And this was the final move. Queen takes e2 check. Here white resigned, because if the queens are exchanged, that's check. King b1, knight takes rook. Overwhelming material advantage for black. So splendid game from Reyansh Saxena, and congratulations to both players on winning the under 18 best game prize, splitting the prize. So well done to Reyansh Saxena and Ashwin Anjulan, and I hope they'll continue to develop, maintaining that fearlessness when it comes to attack. It's really great to see. And of course, I very much look forward to the 100th edition of the Hastings Chess Congress that will take place this time next year. It's always the end of December, over New Year, into the first few days of the following year. So hopefully the English Chess Federation have great things planned for next year.